So Amanda is training, so hopefully she can be playing on Sunday, but still a training on Saturday to make sure we have the right progress with her. HAYLEY is still out for this weekend, so she's on the field, but she's not really back yet. So it's just a smaller thing, but still she's out for this weekend. Ella Morris is sorry.
Carry on.
Ella Morris is back in full action, so she will, if everything goes well, be ready for Sunday as well. Schwangenheim is not ready yet. That's where we are right now. MAITE is out as well. Sorry, she's out for 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah, are you able to say what HAYLEY's issue is? I know you said it's a small one, but are you able to show light on what that injury is?
Just a small soft tissue, and it's like she's already on the grass, so it's not too big.
Okay, thank you. And just in terms of Chelsea, obviously a new era under Sonny Pastor, we've managed to see them now for quite a few weeks. I wonder maybe what's cropped up in your analysis of them that's maybe different from what we saw from Chelsea last season?
I mean, I think she's very impressive CV, and I played against her in Lyon with Häcken in the Champions League. They had a strong team, and they had a good identity there as well. I mean, you can see she's adapting to the English league in a very good way. Signed some really good players. You can tell that she know how to win games, because they're not looking brilliant in all the games, but they find ways to win them. You can see that they have tactical stuff where they do rotations as well. So great coach, great teams. It's going to be a tough game, but on the other hand, we had some good games against Chelsea last season, and I feel like we are performing quite well. So we just need to make sure we have a really good defending mindset and some really good finishings this game, and then we have a good chance.
Just wanted to ask you about a little bit of news away from Tottenham this week. Obviously, Jens Segervall handed in his resignation at Arsenal, rivals of yours, but you obviously spent time on the touchline with him last season. Were you surprised by that decision? And I imagine it's one that perhaps is becoming under more scrutiny now in the WSL. Managers who aren't picking up results under a lot more pressure than they perhaps were before.
Yeah, I mean, it happens. It happened last season as well, right? So the main thing is this becomes more and more pressure, more fans, more media, more social media, more expectations. If you look at the men's game, it's been there for a long time. So that's a part we need to deal with, and that's a part of what we need to find ways to deal with. And I feel like the work he has done for those years is still very good. And then I get it. They have a lot of fans. They want to win. They invest a lot of money, and when the result doesn't come, it's tricky. But I think he knew what he was doing and why he wanted to leave, and I feel like it doesn't affect the way that he's a really good coach. But it also perhaps is what Arsenal need. But I need to focus on what I'm doing. But this is a part of the life, and it's a part of this role. It's not fun all the time, but we just need to deal with it.
Yeah, and we wrote an article on the BBC Sport website this week looking at perhaps WSL clubs, maybe why they might overlook some of the English female coaches in the game. I wondered from your perspective as obviously a foreign male coach coming into the league, do you think Tottenham are a club that are conscious about providing those opportunities for the English female coaches? Obviously Vicky Jepson, a good example of someone who's thrived under that opportunity. Yeah,
I mean, for me, I think it's very important that we bring more and more female coaches, assistants, head coaches. I think it's a gap. It's too few, but it's a reason because it's a history with women's football have not been professional for so long, and they're getting more and more names now, and they're doing some good stuff. And Sonja and Emma is obviously two really good examples. When I was in Häcken, I had mainly men around me in my coaching staff first year, and then I realized I cannot have it like this because it's hard to understand women and work with women if I don't have women around me as well in the staff. So next time I recruited a Brie Campos who was a female, and it was actually, of course, quality of the coaching, but it was actually also a decision to make sure we bring more female coaches and staff members around. Vicky is obviously very important to me. Tottenham as a staffing group, we have the majority is females, so it's very good to have that. Different age groups as well, to make sure we have older and younger ones so we can reach the players in different ways. But I think we need to push even more. I think we need to make sure we find rooms to develop both men and women, but absolutely more women into the game. But it comes down to finding the right character and the right quality for each role as well. So it's hard to just say, like, just sign a woman and then everything becomes well. But I think you should actually look for more and more, because I think it's important for the future of the game.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Thanks, Robert. All the best.
Cheers.
Thanks, Emma. We will go to Charlotte.
Obviously, you had a fantastic result against Arsenal last year. I was in the stadium then. Can you put off another historic result against Chelsea this weekend as another big London rival?
Absolutely. What I feel where we are is that we have a more clear identity now. Everybody knows how to play. We have some quality players. But I'm also like, I get it. We're playing one of the best teams in the world away, so we need to have a perfect game to win this game. But I know that we can do it. I know that we have the characters in this squad that can do it. But we also need to make sure we nail the whole game. So if you look at Man United, it's not a bad performance most of the game, but it's some poor situations that creates the loss, basically. So we know how good Chelsea is, but we also know that we actually can compete against them. And I know what we need to do to win, but if we do it or not, then we have to wait and see for Sunday. But we have a good chance. I'm strongly believe that we can do it.
What have you learned from that sort of brief period in the Man United game where it went from 0-0 and being quite competitive to suddenly out the game, that you can apply to this Chelsea game?
I mean, we looked at the analysis of the game and how we started the game well, how we pressed well, how we played well, and we looked at the goals they got and what created those goals. And it was not like they were playing us out. It was us not taking the work we should do, or we're not in the positions we should be. So we're more like to address that and show that we cannot just defend with 8 or 6 players. We are not that dominant team, for example. So it's situations that we need to learn from, and we're learning the hard way this game, because when you receive 2 goals, you kind of lose the game just because of those situations. And when you give them the goal in one way because we don't really take the homework, it's not good enough. So we have addressed that. And it's also learned them, like last season we worked quite much with box defending and how to protect the crosses, and we were quite good at it in the end. And now we were not good in this game, so we need to make sure we're never done. We just need to go back to stuff as well and make sure we work with that. And of course we need to finish the goals as well. I mean, we had some really good chances in the beginning. If you score there, you have a better self-confidence to keep dictating the game. So. But we're learning every week, no matter if winning or losing.
Just my final question. You obviously started Martha Thomas and Beth England together, which is something you were talking at the beginning of the season you weren't sure to do. Injuries meant you did that against Man United. Are we going to see that again? Are we going to see Beth England start against the whole team?
I mean, sometimes when we speak about them playing together, of course, it's you can think that, okay, they cannot play together or they can play together. But I think the main thing when we've talked about that was when they were a 10 and a 9. This was the first time Martha played as a winger. If you look at the game, Martha is actually doing some really good stuff, especially in possession. Beth is a good link player and everything, so they can definitely play together. But this was a solution because of injuries and where we had the players right now. So the main thing is both of them are number 9. Both of them are competing as a 9. Some parts of games or some games, of course, they can play together in different roles, but the main thing is they're not competing in any other role than the 9, if you ask me today.
Thanks so much.
Alex.
Afternoon, Robert. You mentioned at the start of this press conference about MAITE being up for 6 to 8 weeks. I was just wondering, could you kind of go into any detail about that, and after such a strong start to the season, that must be quite a big blow to essentially mention one players. Yeah, I mean, she was one of our biggest signings, and I think she was one of the best players in the first games. So she had a quad injury, so which means that with nothing to do, she got that one, and it's unexpected, and it's not like she have anything that was a reason behind that. It was more like an accident in training. So for me, it's like we have good players that can replace her, but of course she's one of the the best technical players and the passing players. So of course we're going to miss her. But the part of this game is to make sure we have a good squad and the players who are coming in can get the chance to show where they are. So I always try to find a good way by seeing injuries as not a good thing, but it's a good thing for the group, because then other players can get the minutes to show where they are. So unlucky, because I really like MAITE and what she have done this far. And just on Jessica Naz, the England squad was announced this week, and she stays in it after making her debut over the summer. How impressed have you been with her start to the season, and maybe what do you think she needs to improve to kind of come from a squad player at England to starting every week? What every week like? I think her journey together with me, how we have worked, it's been great to see her come from
in and out, injured, not play too much, to actually take a starting position, be a really good threat, handling out of possession, how we press, creating chances. I think if you look at the first games of this season, she's been good, but she's not been great because she still haven't the consistency of finishing 1-against-1, scoring goals, doing assists. So it's still stuff to improve. But she's still very good in the games. So, I really pleased what she have done, but I also know that the potential in her is so much higher. So when she get more consistent and create more chances, score more goals, and do that, then she probably going to start in the Lionesses as well, because then she is that high quality. So, and when I speak to Serena, she see the same stuff that we see. So of course she's more to come. She can be even better, but already now she's a top player in this league. But she just needs to be a little bit more consistent in the finishing, the 1-against-1, the decision making, and then you're going to have a starting player for the Lionesses.
Thank you. All the best for Sunday.
Cheers.
Thanks. Dan Pentland.
Hey Robert, hope you're well. I just want to ask about Lena, because obviously she's been called into the under-23s this week, which is great for her. Obviously she's been involved a little bit at first team level in recent weeks as well. Kind of what's the plan for her this season? Do you think you're going to be able to kind of offer her enough minutes to be able to kind of develop and grow in the team?
I think we had a chat the first week where we discussed potentially going alone again or stay and fight. And I said, I actually think you are ready to fight and get minutes if you are ready to also handling some weeks without minutes. And she liked that, so we started there. And then during preseason, she was really good. She was scoring a few goals. She was understanding the tactics. So she getting closer and closer. And then, of course, we signed HAYLEY Razzo and Achiki, and then you have more players to compete with. And then still she has continued to compete and perform, and I think she got minutes the other game as well. So she is in and out to come on the pitch. She's in my head sometimes to actually be able to start the games already now. But the main thing is to find ways for her to grow with the team. I'm very happy that she's in the under-23 now, because that's a good thing for her to develop as a person to go away there. I see some really high potential to be a starting player in this team, but also to respect the journey. She played for Ipswich last season, so it's a big step to play now in the Women's Super League, and it's more stuff she needs to learn. But I have a plan to try to make sure she gets the minutes here and there, and then it's up to her to take those minutes and how quick she want to play even more minutes. But it's a great person to work with. I just love her attitude and how she takes in the info and try to do what we ask for her.
And when I look at kind of the results, obviously you started off with a great win against Palace, you kind of ended with a bit of momentum against Villa, and then it feels like obviously being beaten by a bit of a soft penalty, and then played okay against United and come out with a 3-0 defeat. So it feels like you're maybe in a little bit of a tough moment at the minute. So do the players kind of need lifting a little bit going into the weekend?
Yeah. I mean, you can take, you can basically, when you get a hit and 2 hits, 2 games in a row, where you can go down and just feel sorry for yourself, or you can take action. I feel like the one fun thing this week was that the players want to replace the yoga with boxing on Tuesday to make sure they get some really good attitude and energy. It was a really good call from the group, I think, because then they show that they want to take the fight, they want to keep going. We had a great training week, some great feedback from the games, constructive, and they were really keen to take the feedback that we need to grow into the team. We also know we have a few injuries, which is also a little bit complicated when it's that tough games, but to see the players coming in last week was also nice to see that they are ready to come in and do a good thing for the club. Obviously you also need to handle losses, and I mean, we have a really tough schedule. We have, we had Liverpool and Man United, we have Chelsea, West Ham, Man City, Arsenal. So for 6 games, we have 5 teams from top 5 last season. So you also need to be understanding that every game is a really tough game, and we need to have a really good game plan and a really good performance to get the result. And if you don't get that, you also need to realize that the table is set after 22 games. And if you start looking at the table now, you're going to have a problem. So for us is to make sure we train hard, we develop every week. And even if we would lose some of those games as well, we need to make sure we get back and train hard and have the plan, because sooner or later, the way we play and the way we create chances is going to be very effective for us. So, but that's, everybody's a person with feelings. So it's always the mixture of finding the right way to also find the result, because you cannot trick the brain too much. So, but we're going to go for it against Chelsea, and we have a good game plan for that.
That's brilliant. Thanks, Robert. Best of luck for the weekend. Thank you.
Cheers.
Chris.
know you've given the team news already, but you sound a bit under the weather yourself. How are you?
I had a cold after the game, and then I just lost my voice because I'm screaming too much, I guess, and training. So it's only the voice, but I feel very fresh. I've trained very well this week, but it's the voice. So yeah.
Well, last Sunday, of course, another soft penalty conceded. I know you're not one to criticise referees, and I asked you about VAR last week, but it must be frustrating again, 2 weeks in a row, 2 soft penalties.
Yeah, I mean, if you ask me, we probably have 2 penalties who, with VAR, shouldn't be a penalty, and of course that's tough in one way. The bad thing with VAR is that you destroy the passion and the feeling of the game, and for me it's what I'm used to. So I also love the feeling of this back and forth, and when it happens to you, when you're actually not getting what you want, then of course it's easier to go for the VAR and complaining about the ref, but it's not that easy, because I also feel like I love the passion of, is it right, is it wrong, is it a penalty, is it not a penalty, and obviously you want to have correct decisions all the time. You want to have players who make every decision right, and I want to do the right decisions all the time, but life is not perfect, the refs is not perfect, football shouldn't be perfect, so I'm not screaming at the VAR right now.
Robert, in terms of where your squad is at the moment and the time that you've been at the club, are you still happy with how your players are performing, and are you happy still with the progression, and are you at a stage where you thought you'd be at this time of the season?
Yeah, I think if you asked me the first day when I started to work here, I think we are where we should be. When you asked me last season, I think we were one step ahead of where we should have been, being at Wembley and actually beating Arsenal and beating Man City and so on. So in one way, if you look at the whole picture, yeah, we are in a good spot. We have an identity, we have a squad that fits the way we want to play. Do we have the players that are ready to win the league? Not now, but we have potential in the squad that can develop to that, and we have the next upcoming transfer windows where we also make sure we're going to grow stronger and stronger. But because of last season, you kind of see yourself going quicker, and I want to go quicker because that's always the way you want to do it, but you also need to realize that investing in this team and the growth of it is according to a style, building an environment, not just adding money and buy the best players. And that takes longer than just buying the most expensive player and try to win the next season. So if you ask why they signed me for 3 more years, I know where we are. I get where we are. I get that the second year can be tough. If you feel like you're going to, give up just because of that, then you are in the wrong spot, because what they're trying to do here is to build an identity over time to make sure we can please our fans by titles and also how we're going to play, bring these players who want to be here for a long time, and then I'm quite calm. Even if we will lose a few more games, I'm calm what we're doing. We know what we're doing. We look most of the games quite good, actually, and that's why you need to look at it that way. But on the other hand, I need to respect the fans, the brand of Tottenham. We need to get better results than losing 2 games in a row. So that's my job, to find a good balance. But look, it's still 4 games in, and we still have some small situations in these games that creates where are we? 7th in the table, which is only 1 place down from last season. So it's not like the end of the world.
Well, lastly from me, I just wanted to ask you about the Spurs women under-21 team. Of course, they've won 4-2 on Wednesday. What involvement do you have in the under-21s, and do you attend some of the games? Yeah, obviously we try to make sure we create this academy for the girls in this club to make sure we can have one of the strongest one in the long end. When I came, it was not too much collaboration, and my assistant coach Anton Blackwood was made a transition coach, so he's in charge of the relationship with the academy to make sure I know who's the best players to come up and train with us and so on. This year we have added academy people that, Nick Hardy, who actually run the show, and I'm having a meeting with him this afternoon to make sure I get the journey this far, and now we hopefully can take the next step by actually adding those players sometimes up in training with us, because now they have taken those steps where we feel like they are ready to do that. But then it's always the timing of everything when you develop young players. When are they ready or not? I only watched 1 game this far, but it's because of the timing of other meetings and so on. But I'm a very big fan of watching the youth players when they play, because then I also get my own eyes on them. So hopefully we can find our own players, taking them up to our team. We have a few. We actually have one in the national team as well now, so it's really nice to see the work they're doing. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you. Ishan?
Hi afternoon. So Chelsea have the most number of goal scorers in the WSL this season, with 9 different players scoring. How do you get the players ready and prepared for all the different kinds of threat that their squad offers?
Chelsea? Or did you say Man United?
Yeah,
Chelsea. Yeah, Chelsea.
Chelsea have the most scorers this season.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they have scored a lot of goals as well in that game against Crystal. But if you look at Chelsea's squad, you realize that they have a very, very good squad, expensive squad, a lot of talented players. The main thing how they score goals and how they score goals in different positions and so on is, of course, Rutin Connor is one type of player, Beaver Jones is another player, Ramirez is a different player. So, of course, you need to look at the structure, how they normally score goals from phases of the game and so on, and then you can look individually as well. And we support the players with individual clips as well, depending on who you play against and so on. But we also try to mostly focusing on ourselves and how we're going to collectively defend in some part of the game so they don't create those chances. But it's a tough task because they have so many good players. But we also know that they scored 1 goal in the end of the season last season, and they scored 2 in the first game. So we kind of had 2 quite good games against them, and we know those players. We have players that have played with them, so we also know some inside information that could be good.
Brilliant. And what are some of the positives that you took from the United game? Obviously, the result wasn't what you expected. You talked about the players wanting to take the fight to Chelsea. What are some of the positives you took from the United game that you're hoping you can build on in this performance?
I think when you look at the players or how they've tried to follow the game plan tactically and how they actually try to take the game all the way to the last second, even if you're 3-0 down, that shows some really good characters. I think how they most of the game pressed and took the duels was really good, but we're also learning that if we don't do it all the time, the teams are too good, so we can never ever do that. And I feel like the most important thing is to go there on your own. If you don't do it, we need to demand that from each other and make sure we're there to tell each other what to do in those situations, because we are not alone, we are a team.